let's go on to our second race. Okay, so this race is wildly different compared to the other one, right? Colors are kind of similar, right? But that's purely a coincidence, right? So the second race we have here are the Daeras, right? And so the Daeras are it's our version of like
demons. Not really.
I mean, they might look like tieflings, but I guarantee you they are not tieflings, right? So first things first, there's no tails, right? So boo, Daeras have no tails, right? But Daeras they're different in the sense that okay, they are our to stereotype them, they are kind of like our inbuilt fanatical zealous like race, right? So these are the guys who are your holy warriors, these are the guys who are like your fanatics, your cultists, but there's like a law reason behind why they are like that, right? So the description we have here is that they are like halls that are filled with holy grandeur, and when we say holy here, they mean anything that is spiritual to them, right? It does not mean light, right? So for example, you may see the lady on the left, that's not very light, right? And so they're bound by their fervent worship of, so radiant light here refers to the right guy, not generally, but and a zealous piety, right? And these are inbuilt into them as a race. It's innate. So the Daerans live their lives of a constant longing for a connection between a higher power and the light that they have that shines within themselves. So just for a bit of clarification, holy powers within AoA are radiance. So light does not refer to radiance. These are not the same thing. Okay? So going down into, okay, before I go into the traits. So Daeras have a few core features that I did not write down here. So as you may see in their images here, they have horns. The horns look slightly different. You might also notice that they have pointy ears and they are glowing on some parts of their faces, right? So two of the core features for the Daerans are their horns and their markings, which are known as a stigmata, right? So all Daerans are born with horns and some kind of marking upon them, right? And generally, as they grow older, these things will evolve with them, depending on how close they have grown towards this inner divinity that they have an affinity for, right? And this thing changes depending on well, your race, your sub race specifically, right? So for example, the lady on the left, she has an affinity for the arcane, and then the guy on the right has an affinity for radiance, right? And so as they grow, if they grow closer to these divinities, these things will grow with them. So your markings cover more of your body, your horns grow bigger or sharper. It could be different depending on the particular Daeran herself or himself, right? So that's just kind of like a high level look at the physical traits of the race, right? So let's go on to the actual traits, right? So just now elves live to 140, right? Daeras don't live so long, right? They live 80 years old. This is pretty similar to like your average human. Even, I mean, I think in medieval times, I don't think they live that long either. Yeah, most of them would die by the time they're 30 or 40. So in a similar sense, in a fantasy world, if you're adventuring constantly, you're probably going to die earlier. But your life expectancy, if you lived in a town, is 80 for a Daera, right? Culturally, all Daeras are fanatical one way or another, right? It's just that the way their fanaticism shows up is different depending on what their religion is or their core tenets are based on the divinity that they have, right? So one example we have here is that if okay, the Daera on the left, which is a arcane Daera, right? They're from the desert, and then their religion is that they worship a god of war, right? And in that case, the religion is around the god of war, right? And that means that fanatically they would be, well, violent by default because they worship the god of war, right? But this also comes with things like honor and valor and stuff like that, right? So that's what we mean by they are fanatical one way or another. They will always try to embody the values and the symbols of whatever their divinity is. So this does not have to be religion, it's more about their divinity, right? But divinity is usually tied to religion, and you could make an argument for how you would like to twist it, like whether it's a forgotten god or whatnot, but we'll leave that up to your imagination, right? So size-wise, okay, Daerans are very big. So your average adult Daeran is going to be like 1/8, 1/7 to 1/8 plus.
Mm.
Yeah, so you're not gonna get short Daerans generally unless they're kids, right? So they're all a lot larger than the rest of them. They can look lanky, they can be muscular, so their builds can vary, and they lean towards generally stronger builds. So most of them are on the fit side, right? Just by nature of being Daeran. Of course, you can have a fat Daeran, but then your average Daeran is not going to be fat. It's going to be by virtue of them being taller, they are bigger. Yeah.
But mechanically, they are still medium.
Yes, mechanically they're still medium.
They're still medium, so they're not
big enough to become large.
enough to be the next size up. So these are more physical stuff, and visually they are bigger, but the mechanical sense they're still taking medium size lah. Yeah. So 5 feet by 5 feet.
Yep.
Yeah.
So languages, you can speak, read, and write common, same as the rest of them, and you can also speak Daeric. So Daeric is their common language, right?
So similar to Elf, they also move at 30 feet.
Yes. Yeah. So you'll find that most of the races will move at 30 feet. There's an exception, so we'll get to that. So okay, let's take a look at the first one, which is the Daeran Subraces. So Daeran Subraces are based on the nature of their inner divinity here. So the Magoi gets arcane, and then the Lux get light, right? Manifesting in their horns, in their body markings, which is the stigmata, right? So within the Thunder Steps, these are the two common ones. Okay. Moving on to the Magoi. So as I mentioned just now, they are from the deserts in western Chorinthia. Their inner divinity leans towards the arcane. They have a much smaller population. So their population is not massive. So generally they're much rarer. And the Lux Daeras don't really like them. That's all I'll leave it at that, right? So what are some of the physical things that they have is that they have long pointed ears. So all the Daeras have pointed ears as well. They have darker skin, similar to kind of like a bluish or purple skin. But their hair tends towards light colors, cool colors, right? And their eyes are light blue, purple, or white. It glows a little bit. So all the Daeras have a little bit of a glow somewhere on their body. Not extremely practical. You might want to cover that up if you're thinking about designing like a Daera character. If you're like a stealth-based character, you don't want to be showing off your glowing tattoos everywhere, right? Like your Illidan or something. Right. Then the horns of Magoi Daera are generally slender and pointier compared to their Lux counterparts, and their stigmatas grow violet with like a faint hint of arcane energy, right? So as mentioned just now, this is something that is dependent on how close this particular Daera is to their inner divinity of arcane magics, right? Okay, so moving on to the next one, which is this side, the Lux. So the Lux are from the Eternum Imperium, which is a theocratic empire. You can think of them kind of like the Roman Empire, the Vatican, right? That's in our world, not in Chorinthia, right? And
it runs the same way.
It runs in a similar way. There's a pope, there's a bishop. They have a theocratic leader, and their inner divinity leans towards radiance, right? So you have like light tattoos, big strong horns, right? And there's a cultural disdain in the Lux Daera in general, like the entire race has this disdain for necromancy, right? So culturally they view it as kind of like a desecration of life, right? So long pointed ears, yes, that tends to be their skin tends to be silver or alabaster, right? So there's a bit of a lack of like a flush to them, right? They are more pale and almost like gone, like jaundice looking, right? Of course, you still get a little bit of that pink in, but then it's going to be on a much lower scale compared to humans or compared to the Claymans and the Viennans, right? Their hair color tends towards like white, silvers, and blondes, even blacks, right? And their eyes are golden, brown, and amber. So a lot of that natural kind of like light colors, golden colors. Then the horns of a Lux Daera are often on the thicker side, and their stigmatas glow golden with a hint of radiance, right? One other note that you might notice is that the shapes of their stigmatas are also dependent on their affinity. So like the Magoi ones might have like much sharper shapes, and the Lux ones might be a little bit more curvy. So it's dependent on the element, right? So in the future, perhaps there could be like a shadow one and whatnot, and then the shape, like the style of the shape might be different, might be thicker, might be thinner, might be pointier, right? So that's a factor that we take into account with the different sub-races of a Daera. All right, and so what are the racial skills that a Daera can have?
So, racial skills here, right? I mean, you have said like arcane and like, I mean, in terms of like the sub races, right? They're like arcane focus, radiance focus. But do take note, they don't grant any bonuses, so they're just as it is. So they don't grant you like bonuses if you take like, for example, if in the future like we have like arcane skills or like radiant skill, it doesn't do anything, right? So it also means that as a Lux sub race, you can have like arcane skills. There's nothing that says no.
Yeah.
Right? Law wise, maybe not, but when we are playing a game, you know, you can mix and match, right? Yeah. So just to put it out there, in case anyone is wondering,
these are not strictly these like are not or.
Yeah, it's not a strict thing. It's more so. Most of these races that we are doing, right? Actually not most. All the races that we're doing, right, are actually suggestions in a way, and not strictly enforced. Correct. Yeah. If we do enforce it, then it'll be a bit weird.
However, the skills are designed with these things in mind, so thematically they belong to each other, right? But you can always play like a Magoi Daera and pick Inner Light, or Lux Daera and pick Mana Break. There's nothing stopping you doing that, right?
I mean, yeah, correct. So going to the actual skills itself, so you have two similar. So one is Inner Light and one is Mana Break. And here we review like Inner Light. So Inner Light is the text instant and Daera. So same, you need to be a Daera. It's a racial type skill. Here it costs SP1. Right, so this means it can be. So what that means is actually you can use it in combat as well. So like as part of your as part of your player turn action, you can use this skill. Right.
So this doesn't need to be a player turn action.
It's instant. So this is instant, correct? But generally you still need stamina, lah. Yeah. Correct. So I think this is also the first instant skill we have.
Yes, this is the first instant skill that we have. Yeah.
So instant is a new tag in terms of what we're reviewing, correct? Yep. So what that means is, right, this skill can be used at any point of time. So it can be, so for example, like during the player turn, you can immediately use it while the DM is doing something, right? Like he's about to hit you, you can immediately use it as well. Yep. There's nothing that is quote unquote stopping you other than
your SP.
The SP is one, and the requirement.
Yes.
So in the effect, right, there's this is, I think we mentioned it in the previous deep dive. This is also our first once a day usage. Yeah. So that's tracking right there, lah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going to the actual effect, so it's a once a day. You can heal 4 plus level. Yeah, yes, 4 plus level, and it does not consume vitality. I think this is also the first time we are reviewing healing. Is it?
Not
vitality.
Not healing in general, but healing
for tying to vitality. We have touched healing a bit, which is in companions.
Yes.
But that's not
mending your pets.
But that's not really the same here.
Yeah, not quite the same.
So do you want to actually go into detail here? Because this will take a while.
We'll just touch on it briefly.
So, briefly here will be vitality is a resource similar to HP, where you can't, there is a maximum cap on your healing. So
okay, cap on your healing is not quite the right word.
No,
number of times you can be healed.
Yeah.
Right. So in AoA we have a cap on the number of times you can be healed per day, right? Or per rest actually. And that's your vitality stat. Your vitality stat scales with your vigor. So you higher your vigor or you lower the vigor, the higher your vitality or the lower your vitality. Right. So your baseline vitality is 2, and then it goes up and down with your vigor. Right. So what that means is that, for example, if you have 2 vitality, you can be healed twice with no problems. Once you're at 0 vitality, every time you are healed, you can be healed. But every time you're healed,
something
you
else
take
happens.
a negative effect, right? Which is Yeah, we were not going to cover that.
That's
the whole thing. But just so you know that there's a negative effect if you consume a vitality past 0, right? So that's what makes one of this inner light a bit different, which is that this is a free heal. There is no downsides to this, right? Once a day you can use it, you can heal for that amount, and it does not consume your vitality, right? So this is
which in AoA vitality is it's almost as important or maybe more important than a HP resource in a sense.
Yeah, it's very important.
Because of how quote unquote deadly or how things can escalate very fast.
Yeah. It's not even like deadly. No, it is deadly. It is very deadly.
Yeah.
Right. So resting does not heal you a lot. You're dependent on healing from external sources most of the time, right? Unless you get a very long rest in a town or something like that.
Almost 99% of healing consumes vitality.
Yes, most healing consumes vitality.
I think this is one of the few ones that doesn't. And I feel like this is one of the systems that we have done quite well. Because vitality itself is because healing, right? So this is actually going a bit off topic, but healing is usually very free, and we wanted to change that. Yeah, so we wanted to make it such that healing is actually a tactical response and a tactical action that you actually consider before doing it. Yeah. So that's going off a bit, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, like healing can be either very powerful or very useless, because it's either like when I'm healing, if I don't out heal the damage, the heal was pointless. I could have just done the damage instead. Or healing is so powerful, I'm just
eating
stallmating the entire fight, which then becomes frustrating when you're playing the game, right? So then traditionally that has been countered by spell slots and whatnot, right? But we don't want to limit spell slots. We want you to cast as many spells as you can, but we don't want you to heal as much as you can, right? So what we have put here is that you can think of this as kind of like spell slots for healing, but instead of you being you spending your slot to heal someone, it's the recipient that has the problem, right? So irregardless of like how powerful your heals are, if the person can't receive any more heals, they just die, right? Of course, they can also just die normally, right? Yeah. But that's besides the point.
We're getting really sidetracked, but yeah. So just to reinforce this, this does not consume vitality, which is an important resource that you use for healing, So, and the key points of this is an instant skill as well.
Yes. Yeah. So instant, just to count on that a little bit more, our round system goes by one entire round, right? And then within a round there is player's turn, not the player's turn, and then what happens in the scene, right? And so what instant means is that at any point in time between anybody's actions, that whenever you want to, you can just be like, I want to do it now, right? And there are not many instant skills generally, right? Most skills are either reacts or just actions normally. Instant skills are not common because they are very flow breaking, right?
Yeah.
So you can think of this kind of like an emergency, like this, and then you heal, right? Of course, this is just one of their 2 skills. So yeah, you might know this as like second wind, lay on hands, that kind of thing, that style of skill, right? Just know this is only for yourself. You heal yourself. Yep. Okay. Anything else to add on for the Daeran?
So Daeran, compared to the elf, this is more unique. Okay, not really tribal, but this is more not common in that sense, where it's a bit more like experimental kind of stuff that we actually settled on pretty early on.
Yeah, this was pretty early.
I think most of the races were set up pretty early on. Like I think you were designing the races.
Yeah,
like the looks as well as like the visual appeals of it.
We had a rough like set of stereotypes we wanted to hit, and we wanted like a demon-esque kind of race, right? The question was, how do we make this demon race not so demon and more appealing to a wider range of audiences, right?
More, how is it, less Western influenced demons in that sense.
I mean, they're still kind of
but
jinns, kind of thing.
It's still kind of jinns, but it's more like humanoid in that sense. Yeah, so I think this was one of the few races that didn't change much. I think most of the race Most races didn't change at all.
Another way you can look at it, right, is one thing you might notice is that we don't have alignments for the races, right? So all of the races can be good, they can be bad, they can be whatever they want to be, right? The cultures and the cities and the countries may lean a certain way, right? But the races are not inherently tied, right? So like, for example, traditionally, let's just say you play like a demonic tiefling, you have demonic ancestry, you're probably going to have some semblance of it from your parents or whatnot, or like down your lineage, right? But in this case, this is very much so more of like their theocracy or their religion or the affinity they have, which is tied directly to either a god or a spirit of some sort, right? Or whatever higher power is granting them this divinity in the first place, right? So if you were to use this in your own setting, you can change that, right? If you want like a fire god, okay, Fire Daera, right? You want like a ice god, okay, Ice Daera, right? So those are the things that you could consider when you're thinking about Daera as a race, as a template, right? So if you want to homebrew this thing, they are just fanatical cultist guy, but at the same time, like, what does a fanatical cultist guy look like when you take it to the nth degree, right?
And you sprinkle in a bit of like magic.
Yes. If you're familiar with Warcraft, like Lightforge, like Illidan, take that, bring it to the end. Recently there's like War Within and all that stuff. Midnight, like Voidforge. Think about that, like along those lines, right?
Yeah, this was before that.
Yeah, by the way, we created this before Midnight and War Within. So
this was so awkward when it came out.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's a convenient coincidence.